Hey guys, this is Ragz
and Kirk, episode 2.
And today we wanted to go into this awesome summit that we just attended.
Yep, Immerse Summit here in Bellevue, Washington. It was the first VR conference I've ever been to. So
same here. It was a good conference. It was very interesting to talk to other people in the community. It was quite cool to see there are a lot of companies, like bigger companies, that are actually starting to get at least somewhat interested in VR stuff. I got the feeling that, you had, I think you had Qualcomm Ventures, they were part of the Shark Tank. You had keynote speakers from AMD and Ford. Elizabeth Barron, who was at the event as a keynote speaker, she started off kind of going into details just about Ford and how they were actually able to build this whole system.
Yeah, that was one of the big breakthroughs. I think it just allowed them to work collaboratively with coworkers across the whole globe and then bring everybody into the same room to talk at the same time, like when they did reviews and designs of different automobiles. And it was pretty neat having like the real-time ability to like tweak the fenders and shrink or grow them, and anyway, get that quick turnaround and feedback.
I mean, you got to read up on this. We'll try to find some material on it and link it back onto our podcast post, but that was really cool.
I was going to say, like, for me, it was tough to do everything, right? There was side talks that were happening, or sessions, and then but for me, there was the showroom, which was where a lot of companies were showcasing like their prototypes or their full-blown products. And it was, being my first conference, it was like I wanted to go see some of this new tech that I know you can't just like go out of the store and buy in a day. But the challenge was that conflicted with trying to go to some of the sessions and the other talks. It might have been part of it that it's a one-day event. I mean, I could easily see if it was spread over 2 days, you'd have more time to
but also I think
it all.
I went to reInvent last year, and it was similar in that you had the expo area where you had all these companies showing, peddling their wares, so to speak, and then you had the main sessions where they were actually going through and going in and talking about these different things. This is set up very similarly here. We had keynotes for the first couple hours, and then you had the expo floor open, and then you had these sessions that started. Basically, you had 3 of them going at the same time, more or less. Like, some of them would go into 2 sets. They were, I think, 25-minute pieces each. Why don't we talk about some of the pieces in the expo? Like, what are some of the cool things that we saw?
For me, probably the most interesting demo was the private demo we got through Axon VR, which we're really not allowed to talk a lot about.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were really nice, and they showed us. Had we not been with one of our buddies who I think was the primary target, we just happened to kind of be there, and they didn't want to be rude and be like, okay, well, you guys go away while we take him off to this private demo. It was nice, though. I mean, it just so happened that we made it there, but I think it was cool. Axon is basically building a haptic feedback system. And can't go into some of the details of how they're doing this, but it was really cool because you had the opportunity to try this Vive simulation out with their hardware, and they had these when you put your hand into their hardware, then the feeling was so, it was so realistic because they were really able to closely simulate how you would feel if that was really happening. They're coming out with a product, I think, early 2017, and I'm super excited for that. And they're actually a company based in San Luis Obispo. They said that they were partnering with a college, which we also found some other people working through UW, I think the Comotion Lab, and so they had a presentation, but we saw some people involved there. So I'm seeing these tie-ups with colleges a lot more. If you go back to like when cell phones came out and stuff, right? So you had like Bell Labs, you had academics like thinking about stuff, and then everyone just kind of spun off and started these huge companies and industries like all coming out of there. And I think that's where we are. They were also talking about how Axon had a lot of warehouse space, and I think you were telling me that was it you, or I forget if I just read it somewhere, that Oculus had basically rented a big chunk of warehouse space downtown, and essentially that's going to be their office space. And if you can imagine, like, look forward, today we have cubes, we have tables, we have desks, we have whatever. If it gets comfortable enough that you can use it for 8 hours a day, not mess up your eyes, and it still lets you feel like you're actually working on stuff, I think you don't need any cube space. You don't need cubes anymore. You don't need hardware at all. You just need some machine that can, talk to your Oculus or your HTC Vive, and then you just go and work in this virtual space.
Yeah, crazy. So the other demo we did, which was VR Arcade, which was an untethered wireless VR experience. It's kind of interesting because we have the mobile VR experiences like Samsung Gear or soon the Google Daydream platform, but this was like kind of, in theory, full-blown tethered desktop experience like Oculus and Vive, but not quite. And then
it
pushed
had
to a wireless experience.
Right. I guess wearing that headset, it didn't feel like I was wearing a super heavy headset, first of all. It was an immersive experience.
Yeah, the field of view seemed a little tighter.
It was a little tighter, but at the same time, it was acceptable.
Yeah.
Because it was all wireless.
Yeah.
And we were able to move around in the space. And I think it was the game we played, you were underwater, you were in the middle of this like rock type thing that had like these pearls there, but then it was deep enough where you look up and these fishes were coming from different directions.
Yeah.
And
I think one of the developers was there who built it with Unreal, and which is kind of neat because he's working for the company, but he also developed that prototype, I guess. But I guess on top of that, the other first for me was it was a first co-op
that was really
game
cool.
I ever played.
Yeah,
we were both playing at the same time.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could really see how this is like it'd be great for an arcade setup.
That was very cool because I could see your like avatar or whatever inside, but then I could also see that you were moving. Like I could see your movements directly. It was really reactive. It was pretty seamless. It wasn't like really laggy or anything, and we were able to just move around this circle and shoot at all these things, and then look over, and then we were able, like you were calling out like, hey, there's a fish coming right behind you, turn around and shoot it, and so you were able to look over and then help the other guy out. That was really, it was fun, man. I could see. I would say arcade of the future.
In an arcade experience too, it's kind of interesting. It was a cross between motion capture, so it had like little nubs on the end of the headset and the controller that cameras were able to sense where we were positionally. But I thought it worked pretty well. Especially for just being set up in a conference room. But it sounded like the company has been already commissioned to go out to other conferences and concerts to set up a similar rig. I could easily see that, being a repeatable
But
request.
Important, I think, to note is that all of their hardware is custom stuff. And when we say untethered, full-on experience, it really was. Like, it was this huge space, and maybe imagine one of those, like, concert venues. Like, if you see the stage, like, it's like the square area where there's just these pillars all around that had these lights, these big lights kind of going, except here there were all these sensors mounted pointing inside looking down at this area. And so if you want this for yourself or you want this somewhere else, you basically need to have them put this thing up. But that's no different than whatever arcade you call a company or whatever, and they come bring an arcade system, set it up. I think that'll be interesting. We're trying to get them to come to a talk at
they were local here out of Bellevue.
Yeah, they're out of Bellevue, and we'll talk about this next episode. But a teaser is one of the things we want to talk about is Atari's Modal VR. I would be curious to see how that stacks up against this thing. That's also custom hardware, obviously, like from Atari, but their whole push is to make this large-scale enterprise industrial thing. Anyway, we'll talk about that more in the next episode.
So the spacesuit.
Is that what they're calling it, like straight up?
It's not their official branding, but they said for now they call it the spacesuit. So Null Space is a startup. I definitely know they're from the East Coast.
Yeah, they're from Rochester, New York, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then they recently relocated here to Seattle.
So basically they're building a haptic feedback suit that you put on. The demo we did was just the upper body, so from your torso up to your shoulders and including your arms.
Yeah, there are these kind of bigger sensors on the sides of your arms. We tweeted. I think there's a picture of me. I don't know. The picture of Kirk was a little blurry because I was too busy. Like I was talking to one of the developers there, and we were just geeking out over some of the details of how they're managing some of the stuff and like the technology side of things. And then I gotta say, like from a tech perspective, it's always fun to talk to because I tried to make it a point to everyone I talked to that day to be like, hey, so what are you doing on the back end? How is this working? Just, whatever they could tell me, because there are a lot of problems in the back. Like we've been talking about this, there are people trying to solve all these problems, and it's so novel because they're like the idea of, because we've been dealing with computers and computer related like servers and server management and this and that for how many decades now, and all of a sudden within a few years you now have to deal with like massive amounts of data, moving all the stuff off like the cloud, like moving stuff back and forth. Sure, it's there for real applications, but these guys, like, they're doing some interesting stuff. But that was a really fun demo. Those guys are really excited about what they were building, and it's always cool to see people who are really into their own product, you know. And
yeah, actually, I like talking with them too. Like you're bringing up like maybe the back end side of things, but I did talk to them about accessibility and maybe just how they designed the suit. Talking to one of the maybe the CFO. Anyway, they mentioned, like, one of the girlfriends mentioned the first suit they designed did not fit well for women. Yeah. So that's not accessibility, but maybe that's inclusion. And then I was like, that's awesome, great point. And it's awesome that they even got, figured that out so quick, because I guess you could see a company waiting way too long. And then, actually, I know a camera company that makes a strap that it took them like their third generation before they made one that fit well for a woman that went across the body. And, here they are, like, before they're even showcasing. So, like, they were able to evolve the product there.
But the suit itself was really cool. It was fun to use, and it was a demo. The demo they were showing there, interestingly, they built the day before. They just built.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they put it together for that thing. And they were talking about how easy it is. The API, they're building it so it's easy for developers to, like, hook into their code and hook into what they're building. So that, I thought, was really awesome.
Yeah, the biggest thing, so the experience was basically, like, the one we tried was you're in a desert and there's, like, these scorpions running at you, and you have two guns that you can shoot, and you can, so
they shoot some poison.
Yeah, they shoot stuff back at you,
and then you feel it on your chest, and you kind of
but you do feel like the little reverb in your hands when you're shooting the guns, and then you can actually, like, I tried, like, shooting my chest with my own guns.
Yeah, that was funny, because I was watching Kirk do the demo, and then I was at one point he just turned the guns at himself. I'm like, dude, what? It was just funny because you watch him. He's like, oh, and because you feel, every time a bullet hits you, like, you feel the.
So I was really playtesting their demo they did, 24-hour turnaround. But the big thing for me with that suit was I was really, I guess, expecting something kind of gimmicky, and I was thinking, is this going to really add to the experience, or is it going to, like, take away from the experience? And I guess, like, what I'm trying to say is, like, after I was done, I just felt like, it wasn't obnoxious, like, where I knew, like, oh, I'm trying to get, like, feeling all over my chest and body. It was just kind of like, it was there, but it just added to the experience. And I don't know, I was trying to equate it to, like, a subwoofer, I guess. Like, if you have a 5.1 or 7.1 surround sound system, without the subwoofer, it's just, like, flat, maybe, or the high-pitched sounds. And I don't know. I mean, I guess, like, it'd be cool if it was convenient and they can get it down to a mass-producible
we'll see.
Concept.
We'll see. I mean, but we're spending some time talking about it because we really liked this thing, and it was really cool. It was just a fun concept. And I really like those guys too, and they're fun guys.
But I guess the reason I'm so gung-ho about it is, like, there's this thought of, people suiting up 100% in VR and going into this, like, other, into the metaverse.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, right now we're talking about, are people willing to put a phone and strap it to their face? But I mean, in theory, the future is, like, I don't know, you are wearing, like, a helmet, goggles, gloves, full body suit, and you're completely in another space.
I don't know, man. Like, I keep dreaming of that on the one hand, but at the other, I'm like, man, that would look so much more ridiculous than just wearing these you have these goggles, and it's okay. It's one thing maybe to wear gloves. Like, maybe you could make the push, but then now you have, like, a full body suit, and you have these, like, and so you're, like, wearing this wetsuit. You have these, like almost snorkeling goggles on. It looks like you're gonna go diving, but no, you're just diving into the world of VR. Yeah. It's gonna be goofy as hell, because you're gonna be standing in the middle of your living room or whatever it is, and you're gonna be jumping around in this haptic suit with, like, a full body. Oh man, it would just
but it's what all the sci-fi books tell us is the future. And
I guess that's, and
right now we're talking about 1 minute, or sorry, like 2 minute, 5 minute
demos and
experiences that are, like, they're not snackable, like they're not like 10 seconds on your phone, but a little bit longer experience. But I think if you evolve to where you're wearing a full on suit and stuff, you're gonna want to get in there and be in there into VR, whatever experience is, for hours.
Yeah, because if you're not going to a demo where things are set up, like, I go home, let's say I have a separate machine for my Vive, I have the Vive set up. Like, I got to recalibrate the controllers a little bit, every time. Maybe depends on the room space, maybe depends on the game I'm playing. I might need to try and get some more space, which means, like, I have this, like, futon, so I kind of go over it to mark the space, the boundaries. I'm like, oh, I know where I'm going to hit it, so it's fine. I'll just kind of deal with an extra little extra room space up top, kind of. And it takes some time to set it up. Like, it's not without flaw, because you pull it up and then it'll start. Sometimes it'll be unresponsive. You restart everything again. Sometimes there's an update. You install the update. It's like a good 15-20 minutes for it to get going. So I feel like at that point I'm invested enough that I could say, okay, I'm going to spend an hour doing this. Maybe it's a lot shorter later, 10 to 15 minutes, maybe to set up and then wear the suit and do everything, and then a good half hour in this suit, this place, and I think it's feasible. I think it would still be dorky as hell. Mm-hmm. But in the future, if you could imagine that the thing would actually come built with sensors that you can do like health monitoring and stuff. So maybe you do a session like you would do on a treadmill. You just get into a game or an experience, and then you're wearing the suit and you're doing this thing. Then maybe that's your like quick physical checkup. Maybe the thing like feeds back into, then pushes data back out and tells them, okay, these are movements. This is how it's uninhibited, or whatever. So I think there's interesting applications of that.
What about the haptic controller? Or I said the wrong word. Haptic controller.
The haptic controller.
I think there's some like gun experience you did. It was right near the eye tracking demo that I did.
Oh! So you had a few companies that were doing this kind of haptic sensor / like feedback.
So it just seemed like everybody was going beyond like the current hardware already, right? It was nobody was like coming out with really the new headset, unless it obviously did more +1 plus this and that.
Yeah, I think it was interesting to see that companies were saying, I'm not going to be able to compete with Oculus or HTC or HoloLens, maybe even, unless I'm another big company.
I don't know if they were saying that outright, but you could feel it.
I think the way they were kind of dealing with it was they were saying, we know we're not going to be able to do that as a startup, for example, unless it's like a completely novel concept or something. And so they were kind of saying, okay, well, we're going to hit the periphery. So we had these tactical tactical haptics is I think is what it's called. But so they were one of, they were like Null Space. Null Space is doing the suit. Axon VR was doing something similar with haptic sensors. And then you had this other company that was trying, essentially you plug your Vive controller into their thing. And then when you grab it, it gives you the idea of friction and gravity. So the demo, when you pick up these boxes, if they're heavier, the bigger boxes, it's a little harder to pick up. So it kind of drags down a little bit on the thing. And so when you're gripping it with the palm of your hands, like a full grip, let's say the way you would grip a baseball bat, and then you were able to use this kind of like electric whip at one point, and you could grab these boxes, throw it away, and you could whip it back from outer space, kind of pull it back down. And so when you pulled and pushed and did these things, it kind of gave you this feeling that you were able to like move these things around and do stuff a little bit more than just regular haptic control. Like, because they're using friction, you actually felt like you were kind of picking stuff up. They still obviously need to keep working on it, but it was conceptually, it was really cool.
I wonder the lifespan of that, though, with the Steam Dev Days coming out. They've announced these new hand controllers.
Yeah.
That I believe might have some haptics built in as well.
I mean, haptics, their current controllers have haptics. It's not about haptic response. Like, haptic response is there. I actually see these like Vive and Oculus and stuff put out these controllers. They'll take you a certain way, but I think eventually you're going to need to supplement that with these other controllers or other things, either a glove or that has haptic sensors in it, or you need like another add-on controller that you can plug this on top of and then use, or something of that sort. Because for you to simulate something that realistically, these companies are not going to, like a Vive is not going to build a thing that has the capability of providing full haptic feedback, grab this, like friction movements, like this, that, everything. They'll probably track really well, and they might become smaller and smaller, and eventually it might just be like the size of something small, like a band or something that you just add on top of your hand, which you could be wearing a glove for the haptic feedback. So you might need a couple different things that you put on together and make this fully immersive experience kind of thing. So maybe they have their own thing of their brand, but they're not going to build it into a controller. So I don't think there's a fear of that, but we'll have to just wait and see.
So, okay. Anything else on that one?
No, that one's good. And then, so you did the Fove.
Yeah, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Fove, I believe it's a headset out of
Fove.
Japan. Yeah. So that one was an eye tracking headset. So I was really excited about that because everyone talks about, we need, there's like a couple issues with virtual reality today. The screen door effect, so getting high resolution headsets, wider field of view because we're slightly limited in the field of view of different headsets.
And then hating on people with glasses.
And then the eye tracking.
Yeah.
So the ability to look. So right now, if you haven't tried a lot of virtual reality, for you to look around a VR space, you really should keep your eyes straight and turn your head to look around. Where the thought behind eye tracking is I can move my eyes like we naturally do without turning my head, and then things would be in focus on that part of the screen. So this headset tries to solve that technology, but as you were saying, it didn't work for Ragz. He couldn't do it.
I just couldn't do it because they just said if you have glasses, you can't do this demo. I guess it's because of the actual way they track and track your eyeball movements. Mm-hmm. They couldn't work through glasses, and also when they hit the sensors because of the refraction through the glasses, depending on what kind of glasses you had.
Yeah, the guy said that this is still an early prototype. They hadn't got the newer models that he was showcasing, but I guess they're going to be releasing. I think they were hoping the end of year or something. And I actually wear glasses. I just happen to wear contacts most of the time. So I was able to jump in. It worked fine for me. But the concept was they had these demos where like they have these like little flies or like robots flying around, and there was no joystick to control them. It was just basically if I looked at one of them, it triggered a laser that shot them out of the sky. So it was kind of interesting because I was playing this full game, and all I did was just sit there in slightly hunched over position and just move my eyes. So like I was playing this game, and they had this a demo that was like a depth of field demo. So like when I looked at one object that was closer, the background, got out of focus, and vice versa.
Oh wow! They had that going too.
Yeah, because I mean, in theory, they know where your eyes are looking.
So another company that's doing that, obviously, that's out there as a big buzz, is Magically. They basically project an image back to your eyeball, directly on your eyeball, and so. The idea of focus and being able to do all that happens because it's basically projected back on your eyes. It's not like HoloLens. There's it on screen, right? And you're trying to focus on the screen and look at stuff and look through there and look at whatever. Here, it's being projected back on your eye, so you can focus. So I think one of the early demos or concept things that they had out was like this idea of being able to pull up this holographic image of a solar system, for example. And you can actually, if you had these planets all kind of lined up or just off, depending on which planet you focused on or which thing you focused on in the room, similar to what you were saying, depending on what you focused on, it changed your perspective, which on the Vive, in which you can't do that right now. It's just infinite vision, right? So you can't really focus on a certain thing. You just kind of look around and everything's the same.
Yeah. I still wonder, though, it's a whole new headset coming into a marketplace that's kind of established already?
It's trying to get crowded, but, I mean... Any electronic device, I think eventually we will get into a consolidated view. I think the big companies will buy out the smaller ones that they want to incorporate into their thing. And
I don't know the other backers behind this. I know it was a Kickstarter campaign, and I just saw they had like $500,000 in like Kickstarter backing, I believe. But regardless, I bet Vive and Oculus will both be dismantling this headset and looking at how to reverse engineer it if they don't already have solutions.
Why would you even do that? Just spend the money to buy it, right? That's what, like if you look at what the MO has been for big companies right now, Google goes and buys out companies. Apple will go and buy out full-on companies. Hell, Apple is thinking of buying Tesla. They have enough cash reserves. Like we are dealing with a world in which monopolies are going to be the norm. So they're just going to buy them up as soon as one of them wins out and comes up with a really cool concept that everyone's excited about. I think they'll just be bought out and then integrated into one of these headsets, probably in V2, V3, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, again, dude, this is like a year. The headsets haven't been out a year, right? And we're at this showroom floor seeing all these demos. But speaking of headsets, there was a company there showcasing a video game that I talked to the CEO of, and they had their game across all platforms. They were targeting Oculus, HTC Vive, and PlayStation VR. So immediately I saw those blue lights from PlayStation VR. So I did get a chance to try out the PlayStation VR a week before it was released through Perilous Orbits demo. They're making a game right now. What was the game called?
I think it used to be called Pool Nation VR, and they renamed it Sports Bar VR because they only started with pool, and now they have pool and darts, and they're going to have shuffleboard and a few other things. And
they wanted to make it like a social experience. So if you're not into just playing a game, you can maybe like go to the bar, hang out, and talk to other people that are around. Which will be interesting if they can pull it off.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess you could still simulate having beer at home. You could just have a couple beers and hop on there and...
May have done that once or twice myself, but without the VR. Anyway, it was cool talking to the CEO, though, about that experience, because I know some companies are just sticking to one platform, but he had some good feedback on just trying to get into the app stores between the 3 different companies, which is always going to be a journey.
Yeah, and I think it's like early days of when you had the iPhone versus Android versus something else. It's like if you went and bought something on an Android, in the Android store, which you're going to see this now that you're going to get the Daydream, you're going to have to rebuy all the apps.
Yeah, don't get into that.
Yeah.
Or it's a reason not to buy apps because they don't let you take them between ecosystems.
Yeah.
So then you're like me, and it's like, no, I'll never buy an app because I'm afraid I have to change.
Stick to the freeware and whatever.
Which is another side. I wonder how many people think like I do versus.
I do. I don't.
You do?
I do. I actually just. I actually never pay money. I hate paying money for apps. So as many apps as there are, not to hate on the app developers or anything, for me it's more the same thing. It's like cross-platform. So I will deal with the annoyance of ads. I will deal with, not having full functionality because I just don't want to deal, and which is dumb because this year I've started buying more apps because I'm like, dude, I'm not really. And as I decide, okay, well, I'll spend some money on some apps and whatever. Then the Daydream comes out and I'm like, oh no, I don't know what to do anymore.
Yeah.
But I think people are going to see that. If I have a Vive now and if I decide to buy a Rift or something, or if I trade my Vive in for a Rift, then am I going to have to rebuy all these games that I bought in the store? So that's...
Yeah, it's tough because I think like maybe that's on purpose. They're trying to lock us in, knowing that you can't take your purchases between ecosystems or platforms. Okay. Well, anyway, that's a lot. We did a lot and talked a lot about Immerse. I think there was a lot of experiences that were first.
We didn't even really go into the sessions that they had, mostly because it was fragmented. Like we said, we tried out. We watched the keynote. We tried out some of the expo stuff. We did attend a couple of the sessions. I'm hoping the Immerse Summit people put together all the recordings and publish it out to YouTube or something. That would be
hopefully
that would be super awesome. And then I'll actually
put the links out.
Yeah, links out, and I get to go actually watch some of those I really was interested in. Some of them were panel discussions. Some of them were deep dives into certain parts. Some of it was conceptual versus what else. And then there was a Shark Tank at the end where a few companies pitched their ideas to, I believe, the heads of Qualcomm Ventures, Vulcan, and Madrona, maybe? I want to say that's true. But it was a Shark Tank type thing where people were pitching their ideas and trying to get backing for it. The company that won is a company out of Vancouver, and they actually do back-end analytics, kind of operations type stuff for virtual reality, and use their software to figure out where people are looking, how much time people are spending at certain places, how things look. It's like you have this game on, where are people looking the most at? Are they looking straight? Are they looking to the side a little bit? Are they looking at this thing in the corner that just draws their attention? And so using that, you can basically tweak your games and make things and experiences better, because now you know how to engage people. Most people look straight. I'm going to put the thing I want people attention to be grabbed by right there, right near where they can, in their field of vision, so they look on that side. And the cool thing is they actually give you immediate feedback. And so, you grab all these analytics and you can look at these numbers and figure out very easily where things are going. I thought that company was really awesome. I'm really hoping we can get them to come give a talk soon. But yeah, all in all, man, it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of really cool people.
Yeah, we sent a couple Twitter posts out on our Twitter account. It's CVRNT, so that's at CVRNT.
That was also the first time I got on Twitter, and I sent a couple tweets. Still struggling really mightily with what I can tweet.
I tell them put it out to the world. Nobody's going to read it anyway. So
this is true.
What's your handle then?
It's at BRWNCHNL. That's Brown Channel.
My personal account, I do it under at the VR PM, so it's the virtual reality product manager.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are our personal ones. We need to start posting some more on our Facebook, which is CVRNT Podcast. And then check out our website, of course, cvrnt.com, where we're uploading all the podcasts and soon to be on iTunes.
Yep. Well, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll put another one out.
Yeah,
soon.
Ragz, it's a good recap. Okay, man.
All right.
Talk to you later.